What does a wealthy billionaire who's trapped in the body of a cat do to save his business and reconnect with his family before it's too late? Hello and welcome to our channel. Today we'll recap and review an American comedy called 9 Lives. Let's check it out.
The movie opens with a man, Tom, in a private jet preparing to jump off his plane. A young man, David, who appears to be his assistant, but in reality is his son, informs this over-wealthy, arrogant, and honestly quite annoying billionaire about some of the projects at hand. He dismisses them, and when he is informed that he has messages from Laura, he seeks to know why she is calling. David reminds him that Laura is his wife. Do wives really need reasons to speak with their husbands? The answer to that is no. Except, of course, you are Tom and you have no time for your family. He takes a leap off the plane after inviting David to join him. David declines, though, as he is not in the mood to lose his breakfast in midair. As Tom lands atop his magnificent building, he is met by a team of staff and media personnel. He briefly gives them his plans to build the tallest building in the country. He also doesn't forget to mock the efforts of a rival company who are also building a skyscraper like them before leaving for his office.
Tom is the perfect picture of success in America and indeed every part of the world. He commands wealth, influence, and attention. And while this is great, he does little to create time to be with the only people who would be there for him at all times, his family. In the pursuit of wealth and achievements, family must never be sacrificed on the altar of ambition.
Tom walks into his office where an executive, Ian, is holding a meeting with other staff. As he walks in, Ian jumps out of his seat. Tom, who overhears the plans for the company to go public, is unhappy with the idea and dismisses it. Later on, he meets with the board of directors who are impressed with Ian's idea for the company to go public with an IPO, but again, the ego of Tom kicks in and he tells them that he is more or less interested in preserving his brand, which is just another way of saying he wants to preserve his name, and all the stakeholders could go bankrupt for all he cares. David calls Ian and secretly informs him that their building might not end up being the tallest, as their competitor has obtained the necessary permits to build a much higher building. Ian knows Tom will go bonkers if this comes to light, so he asks him to keep it a secret. As Tom gets home, his wife is dressed and prepared to go for a luncheon with the mayor. Tom hurriedly freshens up, and his wife tells him to remember their daughter, Rebecca's birthday, an event he's almost forgotten. At the mayor's residence, Laura spends some quality time roasting her husband because of his negligence towards his daughter. The next day, Tom asks Rebecca what she wants for her birthday and says she wants a cat. Tom hates the idea of cats, though. He believes they love to mess up the place and wouldn't want such an inconvenience around. As Rebecca's birthday arrives, Madison, Tom's ex-wife, arrives with her daughter. She chats with Laura about helping her out with a lawyer if she wants to divorce Tom. Yeah, right, misery loves company. Back at his office, Tom is going crazy over what to get for Rebecca's birthday. He has put together a high-powered committee to deliberate on what to get for his 11-year-old daughter. Phew, the things that 9 figures in a bank balance can make people do. In the end, David asks him to get a cat just as Rebecca wants. Tom decides to go with the idea. As he swings his expensive car across the streets of New York, he is interrupted by a call from Ian. In his frustration, he tosses the phone and his map navigation app recalculates a new route to the cat shelter. As Tom gets to the weird shelter, a cat jumps on the hood of the car. If it could speak, it must have said something like, "Hey bro, what you doing in my hood?" Tom observes that the cats share similar faces in 2s and 3s. He later goes into the shop where a weird-looking man, Felix, emerges, and after acting all weird, he sells Tom a cat.
As Tom prepares to leave the shop, he gets a call from Ian. Felix advises him to ignore the call, but Tom doesn't listen and takes it anyway. As soon as he leaves, Felix speaks to his cats to do something, and geez, Tom, you're about to get it.
Tom leaves the shop and drives back to his office. He finds Ian atop the office building, and Tom explains how they could still have the tallest building in America if they use the antenna as a reference. This angers Tom, and he fires Ian for his not-so-brilliant idea. Almost immediately, there is a lightning that strikes one of the antenna, and the effect pushes Tom off the building. Ian, who has just been fired, refuses to help Tom. Tom falls off and crashes into another section of the building. Moments later, Tom opens his eyes. He sees some paramedics attending to a man. However, the bizarre thing is that the man is dressed in his clothes, wearing his belt, and has his face. Tom takes a look at his hands, paw, and discovers, to his shock, that he is now a cat. Laura is now at the hospital and she is told that her husband is in a coma. Tom meows at her, desperately trying to tell her that he is trapped in the cat's body. Unfortunately, Laura doesn't speak cat, so she doesn't understand what the overly unhappy cat is talking about, especially when her husband is lying unconscious in the hospital.
At this point, this movie takes a bizarre turn. Tom, who has always demonstrated independence, power, and brute force, will now be forced to submit to the instructions of others. This picture shows the uncertainty that life throws at people sometimes, how a turn of events can bring down the most powerful men or businesses all the way to the ground.
Laura takes the cat outside the room to meet Rebecca and David. They then go to see the unconscious Tom. Felix appears and advises Tom to set things right before his body expires. If his body expires, he'll be stuck in the body of that cat for good. That night, as Rebecca and Laura get home, Tom tries to get their attention, but to them, he is just a cat seeking attention. Laura is unable to sleep, and Tom makes his way to the study and tries to scribble a message to his wife, but that is just what it turns out to be: cat scribblings. After a lot of trials, he gives up in frustration and manages to pour himself a drink. Somehow he gets that right and ends up a really drunk cat. For Ian, the things are looking up. The board is also happy with some of his innovations. David overhears him discussing the opportunities and what Tom's absence means for the company. David also tries his best to continue to run the business the best way he can. At home, Tom, who is now known as Mr. Fuzzy Pants, is having a difficult time trying to communicate to his family that he is not just a cat, but Tom. One day, he manages to get the address of Felix off the yellow book, but not before completely destroying the entire book. David also tries to convince the board on how best to still achieve his father's dream of having the tallest building in the country. However, the board is not interested in spending more money on the project. However, Ian has moved up plans to take the company public even without his knowledge. When David finds out about this, he confronts him, but Ian refuses to change his plans. After reaching out to Felix, he comes to the house and, in cat-to-man discussion, he tells Tom to embrace his life as a cat if he ever wants to return to his body. He also tells him that he is supposed to bring happiness to his family in this trying moment and not add to their grief with his behavior. Tom the cat adopts this new routine grudgingly in a bid to return to his body before the time is up. He submits to cat chow and even ribbons from his daughter. How the mighty have fallen. One day, he overhears Laura speaking to a certain Josh on the phone. This is the second time that the name is coming up, the first being when his ex-wife had mentioned it during one of her visits. Tom decides to see for himself what this Josh's business is all about and sneaks into the car when Laura is about to leave. As they get to the venue of the meetup between Laura and Josh, he discovers to his shock that Laura had plans to leave him, but not for Josh because he is an estate manager. Tom is heartbroken by the revelation and decides to do better.
Not sure if he plans on being a better cat or a better father, though. These are really humbling moments for Tom, though. They prove to be some of the best times and require lessons about life that he needed to learn. And finally, he learns about the importance of family, love, and being there as a pillar for the people who truly care about you.
Laura gets a call from the hospital when she gets into the car to leave. As she gets home after the hospital visit, she tries to prepare Rebecca for the possibility of Tom not waking up from the coma, but her daughter refuses to entertain such thoughts. Tom follows her and sees her watching an old video of both of them dancing. He does his best to cheer her up after seeing the video. Tom spends the next days watching over the interests of his daughter, helping out with her schoolworks, and generally trying to make up for the lost time. David comes home one night to tell Laura that Ian has finalized plans to sell the company by taking it public. Tom decides to follow him to the office to show him some evidence that could help overturn the decision. Unfortunately, Ian and a member of the board share a document that shows David can vote on behalf of his father. After they leave, Tom the cat draws David's attention to the office, and David sees the shredded copies of the document. David goes to his mother, Tom's ex-wife, to get a copy of the document while Ian hopes that Tom doesn't wake up, at least until he has been made the CEO of the company by the board members, who are impressed with him. One morning, Ian comes to inform her to tell Rebecca to put an end to her husband's life. Okay, that came out wrong. He wants her to get the doctors to pull the plugs on Tom, as he is sure that he will never wake up. Of course, his claims are not medically founded. He just wants to end up with a lot of money in his account, and would hate for any resurrected Tom to spoil the possibility of that. As they walk, Rebecca comes downstairs and heads out for school, she says. However, she is on the way to Felix's office, as she is almost certain that her cat is beyond a mere cat. She meets him and asks if the cat is really her father. Although Felix doesn't say in clear terms that Tom is trapped within the cat, he leaves her with a few clues. What is with the suspense, Perkins? Just say yes. At the hospital, Tom's condition deteriorates and his family must now decide to pull the plug on him. David is disappointed in himself and decides to end his life by jumping off the building, which is opening that same day. Tom discovers this and goes after him. David gets to the top of the building and jumps off. Tom jumps after him and discovers that David had a parachute on him. Turns out taking one's life is easier said than done, right? As David lands at the event where the building is being opened, he votes against the idea of taking the company public and fires Ian. Tom the cat crashes because, of course, he didn't bother to jump with a parachute, but as he crashes, he returns to his body and wakes up in the hospital. A frustrated Ian tries to tidy things up, but Felix has other plans for him. He is hit by a car as he makes a phone call, and Felix has a cat nearby to trap him, and even as the paramedics take him to the hospital. As the movie ends, it is seen that Tom is a better father and a husband now. He takes his daughter to Felix to get a cat replacement, but Tom's doppelganger, Fuzzy Pants, still has some extra lives left after losing one from his jump.
The humor in this movie makes it a very interesting one. While it captures very serious life situations that stretch from boardrooms to the family, it's a movie that teaches very powerful lessons on the importance of family. No one has to be subjected to a humiliating experience like Tom to acknowledge the sacrifice that people make on their way to achieving their dreams and ambitions. Overall, it's definitely worth the time of anyone who decides to watch this movie. Please subscribe to our channel to be notified when we upload. Also, don't forget to suggest movies that you want us to recap in the future in the comments down below.